Good evening and welcome to our homework space webinar for maths and science teachers. My name is Lizzie Gibbon and I am the field sales manager here in Folands, and I'm joined this evening by two panelists. And first of all, I have Connor Walker, who is the Folands head of post-primary publishing, and he is going to take us through really the benefits of homework space to teachers and how it can really help you, how it can help your students, and really mainly, the benefits to you yourselves, particularly in terms of maths and science. And then I'd like to introduce Kira McNamara, and she is our head of digital learning platforms. And she's going to give us a full deep dive into the homework space platform so that you can get a really good sense of what homework space is going to be like for you, what it's going to be like for your students, and all the great things within it, the questions in it, the different question types, and what the experience is going to be like for you and your teachers and your pupils when you sign up for homework space. So without further ado, I am going to, towards the end, actually we have questions and answers as well. If you have any questions as we go through the webinar, just type them into the chat box, and we'll try and get to as many questions as we can at the end. And before we finish, I'll take you through the pricing of homework space and how you can go about ordering it. So hope you enjoy the evening and hope you get the most out of it you can. And before further ado, I will hand over now to Connor, who is going to give you the benefits really of homework space. So I'm going to give control now to you, Connor, and hopefully you can move your mouse now.
Okay. I think I have it now. Okay, great. So thanks very much for that, Lizzie, and thanks everybody for joining us this evening. It's been a long day, and tagging another hour onto that, I know, needed some careful thought. So before I just rock on with this, I wanted just to say thanks to everybody who's joining us, to our science teachers and our maths teachers who've taken time out to take interest in homework space. As Lizzie said, I am the head of post-primary publishing, and together with my colleagues Adam and Clodagh, we would have worked on designing and developing homework space. So what I'm going to do on the next bunch of slides is run through what that is, how it works, and then we'll go through some of the benefits and the structure of homework space as well. So what is it? Okay, to begin with, it's our new digital homework solution. And it's curriculum aligned for junior cycle at the moment. And it's made up of a bunch of ready-made homework assignments, which students can attempt and submit to their teacher. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about the specifics of it. But the process for actual homework setting works quite simply. The teacher sets the homework, and then the students go into the system, they log in, and they answer questions to that homework, and they submit it when they're finished. And the system from there automatically marks each student's answers. Over time then, as that data builds into the system, the teacher can access the results and over time track their students' progress. And as much as we would love it, if everyone out there was using Folands maths and science books, we know that's not the case. So we've carefully designed homework space so it can be used alongside any textbook, and it won't interfere at all with your use of your own textbook in the classroom. Next, I'd like to step through some of the areas where we think that homework space would be able to help maths and science teachers. I suppose the first thing that teachers are coming back quite strongly on, the people who are using homework space, they're saying that it saves them a lot of time. And I think it's known, and we would hear it day in, day out, that teachers are time poor, and homework assignment setting is something that eats into a lot of their time. So by making homework space available to them as a solution that would allow them to access ready-made homeworks that can mark questions automatically for their students and so on. There's a time-saving element there, which I think would allow you to reclaim time to focus on other aspects of your teaching, like planning or if you're doing work on CBAs or any other type of admin or preparation for parent-teacher meetings, Homework Space might help you to save time to focus on those things. And also, it's a very powerful tool in terms of gathering data and tracking student progress over time. So you can go into the system, and if you want to look at things at either a class level or a student level, you can drill down into the reports that are on Homework Space, and using a traffic light system, very easily identify areas where your students are performing strongly, okay, or other areas where they might need to focus on a little bit, or you might even need to intervene and support them as their teacher. Because it's an online product, there's an engagement element and an interactivity element to it, which I think students have enjoyed. And that engagement through interaction, I think, helps to support successful learning outcomes for both science and for maths. And then within each question, the students will get immediate feedback and positive reinforcement on the questions that they attempt, which I think acts as a motivational factor to them. As I mentioned before, the system and the engine behind Homework Space is very powerful, both in terms of progress tracking and reporting. So you can draw down on the information that's on your class, and you can use it as a means of generating reports for parent-teacher meetings, or if you need to estimate grades, the system also supports that as well. Because it's an online product, Homework Space is something that can be accessed anywhere. Let's look now just for a minute on the whole idea of blended learning and how Homework Space might be able to support that. I guess in the last 18 months to 2 years, there's been an acceleration of digital usage in the classroom. And it's pretty clear to us that the teachers would be the greatest influence on how blended learning and the integration of digital in the classroom is implemented. And from the conversations that we're having, but also the research that we've conducted in a more official capacity, it seems pretty clear that teachers plan to increase their level of digital usage in their teaching. So if you're thinking of moving towards a more blended approach, Homework Space is something that might be able to support that with you and your colleagues in the school. Next, I'd like to just quickly run through the subjects that are available with Homework Space. I think I mentioned before, it's at the moment exclusively focused on junior cycle, and we cover all the core subjects that are available. So we've got the higher level and ordinary level maths Homework Space subject. Then Irish is covered at higher level and ordinary level as well. MFL subjects are covered we've got French, Spanish and German courses. And then we also have courses for science, geography, and for history. And sticking with the whole idea of structure, I'll just delve a little bit into how Homework Space itself is set up. And probably the best way to think about it is just that it's very similar to a textbook and your table of contents for a textbook. And each Homework Space subject is made up of a series of chapters called units, which are then subdivided into little chunks or question banks, which are, for the most part, homework assignments, which cover the key topics or skills in that particular unit or chapter. And at the end of every unit, then there's a final test, which is like a revision or an exam at the end of a chapter. So there's a slight distinction between the homework assignments that we have at the start, or the majority of the question banks that are in a unit, and the final test at the end. The homework assignments are probably more student engaged, or they would provide more immediate feedback to them on the attempts that they make. Whereas the final test is a little bit more like an online exam and a little stricter. And again, like any textbook, Homework Space is in line with the junior cycle specifications. And this slide here just shows what the product structure is specifically for maths and for science. So for junior cycle maths, it's made up of a total of 53 units. The first 33 cover the first year, sort of like what would have been called previously the common introductory course material. and the full ordinary course topics. And then for second and third year units 34 through to 53 are higher level only units. It's a little bit more straightforward, I think, for science because it is a common level subject. So we just have 38 units which cover the 3 years common level, and all the strands are covered for science and learning outcomes from each strand. And both maths and science and all our homework space subjects have been designed in such a way that there's very clear and careful progression. Difficulty is graded, and it's also, in the case of maths and science, because they're content-driven subjects, it's very much topic-focused. So let's look now at what the structure of a unit is for both maths and for science. So I'll start with maths. This is just a high-level view of what a unit for maths would look like. So this is unit 7. So that's an ordinary level unit, which covers and is about, I suppose, decimals and percentages. And the green boxes represent the homework assignments. So from 7.1 through to 7.4, you cover the key topics and have homework assignments based on the key topics on decimals and percentages. Then at the end, that's the 7.5 box, final test. That is basically a culmination of chapters of units or assignments 7.1 through to 7.4, where we test the students in all those key topics. And usually the final tests are about twice as long as a standard homework assignment because there's more practice that needs to be, or more topics that need to be squeezed in. And on the next bunch of slides here, I'll just quickly step through what the overarching table of contents is for junior cycle maths homework space. So as you can see, the first 33 chapters, as I mentioned earlier, are ordinary levels. We start with the fundamental topics like sets, natural numbers and integers and so on. And as you progress through the table of contents, then you can see that the topics progress. We move on to new stages or more advanced coverage of areas like statistics, geometry and constructions. And that continues on through to chapter 28. And then by the time you hit chapter 33, that's effectively the break where we end ordinary level and move on then to the higher level section of the subject. Where then, as you can see, there's more advanced coverage of areas or topics like sets, probability, statistics, number patterns, constructions, and geometry. And as you can see, under any of those chapters, there's a very similar breakdown of topics within each. There's usually 4 homework assignments, and then your 5th piece of the unit is your final test. And it's very similar for science. Here's an example of unit 7, respiration, where the assignments 7.1 through to 7.4 cover the key subtopics that could cover respiration. 7.1 is obviously introductory, and then you move through the respiration analyzed from a chemical process point of view. Then we look at it from a biological process point of view and the factors affecting respiration. And again, like we looked at with maths, the 5th question bank is the final test for that particular unit. And on this next series of slides, we'll just run through again what the broader table of contents is. And as you can see, it's very like a textbook table of contents, going from chapter 1 and the fundamental subject areas around biology through to the chemical world subject areas, which begin at unit 16, materials. And as you progress through to then, I think it is around chapter 20 or unit 29, we move into the physical world strand. And then once we reach units 36, 37, and 38, you're into the final strand on Earth and space. So just before I close off and hand you back to Lizzie, I thought I'd just share with you some feedback on homework space so far from the people who are using it. I guess because my whole background is commissioning and content development, that's the one area that I'm particularly curious to know what teachers think about and how they would rate those aspects of it. So we were very happy to see that when we recently surveyed our users of Homework Space on very fundamental areas such as structure, question quality, question variety, and question feedback, we rated very strongly. We got a 5 stars out of 6. And I think Kira will go through in her demo a little bit more of that detail and what the question quality and variety within the Homework Space units look like. And lastly, just to tie it back, I guess, to the point that I made earlier on about time saving, which is obviously a very important thing for teachers if they can manage it at all. The survey that we did of our teachers using Homework Space pretty much endorsed it as a product for saving time. So you can see there that 78% of teachers using it felt that they'd save 1 to 2 hours per class per week in terms of setting and marking homework. So that's time, obviously, they can spend on other important teaching things. 6% of teachers thought that they'd save 2 to 5 hours per class, which is fantastic. And there were some that didn't feel that they'd make any time saving. But even within that, when you drill down into their feedback, they were very complimentary, as was covered in the previous slide, on how the whole product was put together and how it offered, I suppose, an alternative to just a paper-based approach to homework setting and marking. Lizzie, I think that's it, and I'm going to hand it back to you. Thanks everybody for listening to that.
So thanks so much, Connor, for that really good run through and a good understanding of what we can actually see, how the whole thing's been put together, and the structure in particular of the different subjects. I'm going to hand over now to Kira, who's going to really, as I said earlier, give us a really good indication of the different question types and get you to have a good proper look at the program. So hopefully now Kira should be able to share her screen, I think.
Thanks, Lizzie. So we should.
Yeah, we can see that now, Kira.
Brilliant. That's great. Thanks very much. All right. Okay. So thanks very much, Lizzie, for that. So essentially what I want to do this evening then is just to take you on a tour of Homework Space. So what are the tasks that you would need to complete as a teacher if you were using the product? And also what would your students see and experience once you had assigned them homework? So to start that off, I'm going to log in as a teacher. And to do that, you just go to Foland's Hive. And if you're using any of our other programs, you will already be using this to access the ebooks and some of the resources. And you can see then when you log in that the Homework Space products will just sit in the library along with any other Foland's titles that you are using. So to enter one of the products, you just click on the cover of it, and that will open up the product. And then you can see here, essentially on the left-hand side in this table of contents, you can see all of the units of work, and these are again are organized by themes, similar to chapters that you would have in the book. So this is what the structure that Connor was talking through earlier on. And if you then click into any of these units, you will see that each of the homework activities will exist within here. And then as the last homework activity in each unit is actually a test that you can assign to the students. Then here on the right hand side, you'll see if I click on one of the homework activities that it will basically bring up a list of all of the questions or a preview of the questions that appear in that homework activity. So you'll be able to actually look through these and just check the content before you would assign it to your students. If you want, there's also this open activity button, which would essentially launch the activity, and you could take it. So if you wanted to, they do it in front of the class, or just see what the student experiences, you can always do that from here. I'm actually going to take you into the student account later on, so we'll skip that. And I will just draw your attention to this button above it, which is the assign activity area. So what I want you to do is you will click on that, and you're given this form essentially to fill in to pick what activities you want to assign to your students. And the first step then is to choose the content. So if we open up one of the units, you can see here there's a little checkbox beside each of the homework assignments. And if you click on that, that basically indicates that that's the one that you want to assign. You can assign multiple activities at once, or you could even assign the whole unit if you wanted. I'm just going to keep it simple for now, and I'm just going to assign the one activity. But you can fill in as many of these as you want. Then the second step is to choose who you are going to assign the activity to. And typically you will probably do this to the whole class. Once you click into this field, you'll get a list of the drop down of whatever classes you're teaching. So you might be using one of the homework space products with your first years, your second years, and your third years. So they would all be in different classes, and you just select here which class you wanted to assign it to. There's also the option, if you want, to assign it to individual students. So if you click into this field, then you'll get again the list of your classes, and if you click within that class or into one of those classes, you'll see a list of all the students in that class. And if you wanted, you could just select one of those students or two of them to do that. Again, just to keep it simple, I'm just going to assign it. I'm going to assign it to my second year class. But it is worth noting that that the students don't actually have access to the content until you assign it to them, and they won't know what you've assigned to anyone else in the class either. So it is a good opportunity for differentiation if you did want to use it in that way, even for revision if you're in second year and you want them to go back and do a first year topic or something like that. Then the final step in your in setting an assignment is basically to set your due date. So you can see here that the available from date is set for today's date. So that'll automatically fill in. You don't have to do anything. If you did want to plan ahead, you could always just click on the calendar and decide, okay, well, I've got class tomorrow, so I'm not going to assign it till after that class. And you could select that it wouldn't go to them until that point. Again, we want this available now, so I can show it to you. So I'm just going to leave that as today's date. And then I'm going to say set, I'm going to give them till Thursday to complete the homework. And what this means then is essentially this is the time frame in which the assignment will be available to the students for them to complete. So if, for example, I was setting that for a Friday, and I wanted maybe to allow them, officially until the Monday or whatever to complete the homework, I can actually set this indefinite extension period, which would allow them to submit the work late. So you can decide how strict you want to be, if they need to submit it on time, or if you're actually willing to accept a late homework. So once you've done that, you've selected what activity you want to assign, you've decided who you're going to assign it to, and you've set a due date so the students know when they need to complete the work by. Then you just click on the assign button, and you'll get the notification that it has been sent to your students. Once that's happened, you're returned to your product screen, and then you want to go back to your home screen, you can do that. So now I am going to log in as a student and show you what this experience is like. And so similarly, again, the students just go to fullontype.ie, and if they haven't used Full-on-Type before to redeem their ebooks, that's fine. They can have a new account to do that. Otherwise, when they come here, they'll be able to access this content alongside any of the ebooks that they're using from Poland. So you can see now that when I have logged into one of the students in that science class, that immediately I am brought to this assignment section where I can see what work I have due. this little tile appears here. This is the assignment that we've sent, and immediately I can see that I have to complete it. And if I was to skip this now and log back in again later on, I would still be redirected to this page. So basically, students are kind of being reminded that they have homework to complete. But in order to do this, then I just click on the activity and I'm brought in and I'm given some summary information about it, just when it was assigned, when it's due, for how many questions are in the activity. And then once I click on the Start Assignment button, I'm brought into the homework activity itself. And so within this, then again, I can see the number of questions that I have to complete, what question I'm currently on, and I can also see here how many attempts I have, which is only one attempt at the activity, and the number of marks that will be awarded for answering this question. So I'm just going to take you through a test now so we can see some of the different activity types and also give you an idea of what the actual experience will be for students. So I'm going to answer this one and I'm going to get it correct. So who was the first scientist to use the word cells when observing a sample of quark underneath the microscope? I believe that is Robert Hooke, because I checked earlier. So once I've selected my answer, I click on Check Answer. And you can see here then that I've been told immediately that it's the correct answer, and I'm just given some reinforcement that is the correct answer. So if I go on to the next question then, and this time we'll get this one wrong. So what is a cell? A cell is not a group of tissues, but we'll get this one wrong. And we will click on Check Answer. And again, now you can see here that immediately I know I've got this wrong. I'm getting the feedback that it's incorrect, but I'm also told what is the correct answer. So a cell is the smallest working unit of a living organism. So again, I'm getting reinforcement as I go through the activity to help me complete this. And you can also see now that I've got 0 marks awarded for this question because I got it incorrect. So let's just take another one. Okay, I've got that correct. Okay, and so this is a different type of question. This is just a kind of a fill in the blanks style question. So tissues are composed of similar cells working together to carry out a similar function, e.g. muscle tissue. Again, if I click on that, I get it right, and I've got the feedback immediately. Now, what I would like to show you is if I get one of these right and one of these wrong, that basically what we do is so there's 2 marks available for this question, a mark for each of the answer options. So if I go in and get this, organs are composed of similar tissues working together to carry out similar functions. I'm going to say tissue. So if I get one right and one wrong, what we're doing is we're still awarding a mark to the student for the answer that they actually did get correct, but just again reinforcing, look, you didn't get the fully correct answer. This is actually what the correct answer is, so that they've got a chance and an opportunity to learn as they're completing their homework. And we've already done that one, so let me just see. Okay, so this is another type of activity. This would be like a matching or a pairing exercise. So students just have to match the images to what the type of cell it is. So if I go for nerve cell, sperm cell, muscle cell, and blood cell. So I've just dragged those into the slots. And again, if I check my answer, you can see that I've got those correct. And last question then, again, this is kind of a multiple sort of a grid type activity where you just have to say which type of, or which is each of these items basically a tissue, organ, or an organ system. And again, there are 4 marks available for this question. So if I go through and I get a couple of these right, say if I get one wrong, then when I check answer, again, I'm given that immediate feedback as to which answers are correct, which one is wrong. I'm awarded for the knowledge that I do have. And again, I'm given what the actual correct answer should be. And so then once the students completed all of the activities. And I think, you know, I skipped, you can see here that I'd skipped this one. They can go back and they can fill something in here as well. And then they can submit their work once they're fully confident that they have completed all of the questions. And then once they've done that, they're kind of presented with their overall score and a breakdown of how many questions they got correct or incorrect. You can also see the time that they've spent doing the activity, and you'll be able to actually see that information as well. And then finally, they're given the option to either just close the activity, which will finish them off, or if they want to view their answers. So if they click on this, it will essentially bring them into a summary view of the screen that will go back through all of the questions that they have just answered and give them, you know, what answers they submitted. And so here, like, I got this one correct, but in this instance, this was the option I selected. I got it wrong, but actually this is the correct answer. So this is kind of handy to have if they do want to go back over and see where they maybe need to improve. So, okay, so I'm going to come back out of the student view now and jump back into our teacher screen. And actually, what I'm going to do is, just because I'm conscious we'll have some maths teachers online tonight as well, and I've only given a science example, I'm just going to open up the maths product and just show you a couple of the questions within maths as well. So again, and actually go on, I'll use this. So if I click on this as a teacher, so again, I'm in the teacher account here, you can preview exactly what the students would see. So if I go through this, then so the marbles shown here are used to make a repeating pattern. The pattern repeats every 6 marbles. What are the next 3 colors in the sequence? So this is obviously on patterns and sequencing. So I'm going to go, is that right? Pattern repeats every 6 marbles. What are the 3 colors in the sequence? Blue, red. No, I'm getting it wrong. Okay, so I got it right, which is good news. And again, you're getting that feedback or that enforcement, that reinforcement of what the correct answer is. And again, we just use a number of different, that's going to be wrong. We have a number of different activity types that might be used here. So again, you know, you're picking out your repeating pattern and go through. Okay, so I'm going to back out of that now without submitting it. And what I would like to show you is the activity that we did complete as a student and how you will be able to go back in and check your students' performance after they've completed the homework. So in here, in your library section, just underneath your programs is the manage assignment section. So if you click on that, this page essentially lists all of the assignments that you have previously made. So we can see here that I'd already gone in and completed a few assignments already as this teacher, but 3.1 cells, this was the one that we just completed for one of our students. And we can see here that only 1 of the 9 students have actually completed the work. And if and I should say actually that this, so this, obviously this page will get more and more full the more and more assignments that you do, but you are able to filter it by, you know, classes that you've assigned to, or if you've assigned to individual students. I haven't sent any to individual students, I've only sent them to the whole class, but it allows you to kind of filter here by which classes you've sent content to. Or again, you can even just do it based on the program that you're using. But for now, I'm just going to jump into the 3.1 cells. And as I go in, I can see here immediately, okay, so under my submitted section here, I've got Manish, who just completed it and got a fairly respectable 14 out of 20 marks. I can also see here in the not submitted section that none of these other students in the class have submitted it yet. However, if I want to view Manisha's work, right? So, okay, so he hasn't performed too badly, but maybe he is usually a student who will get full marks. So in which case, if I did want to see the actual submissions, I could click in here on this review button, and it will essentially bring up the exact submissions that this student would have made. And you can see here underneath each question, there's an option to fill in some feedback if you do want to give feedback to the students, you know, if they're getting something wrong, or if you want to just kind of give them a comment on the entire activity, like a well done, or you know, a hint that this might be in the test. You can do that and send that on to them, and they will get a notification that their teacher is communicating with them. And I had mentioned as well that you'd be able to see the time spent, you know, so this, again, it might just be an indicator if someone is taking an unusually long time to do something, that, you know, they might be struggling with the work. So, so I'm just going to pop out of this because this only has the one student who's submitted an activity. And if I pick a different example, so this one has got 3 of the students who completed the work. So you can see here again under my submitted column, I've got 3 names this time now, and in the not submitted, I've got 6 students who haven't done the work. So if, for example, I want to say, for example, that the due date had actually passed. Now the due date hasn't passed here, but if I did, I could just select all of the students here, and I could reassign the work to them. And if I do that, then essentially I get this opportunity to set a new due date. That would be a kind of a handy way of extending the deadline if you originally didn't want them to submit it late, but then decided, you know, there's always some good excuse. There was a match on or something, so you might want to just extend it if anyone hadn't done it. And then equally, if, say, one of the students had performed particularly poorly and you wanted to give them a second chance at the activity, again, you could just select that individual student and reassign it to them. So that's an option as well. So one of the final things that I just want to show you on this page for managing your assignments is this compare student responses report. So if I click on this essentially opens up a report for how all of the students in the class have performed in each question. So I've got my questions listed down here on the left-hand side, and I can see, you know, at a glance here, I can kind of see, okay, well, out of the 3 students who've completed this work already, pretty much everyone got question 4 wrong or somewhat wrong. So there might be something there that they're not quite getting, and that could be a flag to just kind of go back into the question, look at it, and, you know, check it might be just need to be covered off in class. But it's a handy way as well then maybe of seeing exactly how the class have all done against all of the questions in the activity. You've got the averages for each of them down here as well, so you can see, you know, these ones are doing pretty well overall. Okay, so they're kind of your core workflows of, you know, assigning the work, you know, students complete the work, and then you can check on how they've done on that specific homework. The last thing then I want to show you is this report feature here. And essentially with these performance reports, what we're trying to do is give you the opportunity to check how students are performing across the entire program or all of the work that they have completed. So again, if you come in, you've got the option to select which class you want to look at. So I'm going to go into the second years. And then what I am expecting to see here now is essentially all of the units that we have, all of the units across the entire program of work. And I get a summary kind of performance score of how they're performing in each of those units. And as you'll remember from earlier, what Connor was saying is that each of these units is set up around a topic, you know, or a theme. So it's actually quite handy to know, okay, well, you know, Manish is kind of got 70% knowledge of the cell. And if I want to, or the nature science, and if I want, I can always drill down into these areas so I can actually see how these students have performed in each of the activities. If I just click in here. I get an overview of exactly what their scores were in each of the homework assignments within that unit. So this is quite handy for, you can well imagine if you have a parent-teacher meeting at the end of the year and you want to just give an overview for an individual student, or even hopefully we will not go back to the pain and the disruption of the last year and a half. But even like when you're trying to work out things like predictive grades, here you've got basically an overview of how a student has performed against each topic, and it's all stored in this single database. So it's kind of handy in terms of just giving you an overview of how each of the students are performing, and also like how the whole class is performing as well. So obviously this has only just been started, but you can imagine as this would go across the whole set of units within the topic. So, okay, so I think then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you back to Lizzie so that she can talk you through some of the pricing about Homework Space and who to get in touch with.
So thank you so much, Kira. That was really, really clear. Absolutely fantastic. We've got a few questions in, but when we get onto the question and answer session, I'm sure you'll be able to help people with those. I'm hoping, Kira, can you see my screen okay there, Kira?
Yeah, I can. You're all set up and you're ready to go.
Lovely. Thanks so much. Okay. So yeah, just to give you an idea of, let's just see, can we move that forward? Yes, it's coming. On the prices of Homework Space. So Homework Space actually comes as an annual school subscription, and with sort of different bundles. But first of all, the basic price is €8.50 per student per subject, and that's per year. And then we actually, as schools decide to use Homework Space in more and more subjects, it becomes much more cost effective as well than that again. So our multi-bundle is where for 3 subjects becomes €21 per subject, and per student for 3 subjects, sorry. And then our premium bundle gives students access to all of those subjects that were mentioned earlier by Connor. So there's 8 subjects in total. Some of those are MFL, so on average most students would get use out of a good 6 of those subjects. So the premium bundle is €29.50 per student, and that's for access to all of the subjects available. And those prices are all inclusive of VAT, which is chargeable on digital products. So that's the annual school subscription prices. We also have an exclusive offer for you, the webinar attendees, and this is for the first 50 schools to sign up as a result of this series of webinars that we're running. And that special offer is a special price for subscriptions for this school year, and that's for the basic bundle, which is for 1 subject, and that's €4.25 per student, and that's for 1 subject. So that's a 50% discount. So I'm sure you'll agree that's a really fantastic price for this school year. And that offer ends the 31st of October 21. So do sign up as quickly as you can if you're interested. I'll show you how to do that shortly now. So we actually have a demo account which is open for you to have a really, really good look in your own time at the platform. And in there you can check out the various units and what they cover in detail, and you can also try out the questions as if you're a student as well. So I think that's going to give you a really good idea of the program, a very, very good sense. It'll give you a good chance to look at in detail at all of those questions that are in there, the expertly written questions that are there, and give you a sense of, enable you to make an educated decision about this, because it really is fantastically put together. You're getting so much in there. So to get into that demo account, you log into Folan's Hive, so that's Folan's Hive, www.folanshive.ie, and then the username to get into that demo account is demo@folans.com, okay? And the password is just Folans, all lowercase. So I'm going to give you a moment to take that down. I think I would really, really advise that people do have a look in there, because it genuinely will give you a really good sense of what's there. Give you a moment there to look at that. Okay. So we have a homework space specialist who I would really advise that you get in touch with, Brian McGarvey on mobile 087 050 1951. Brian.McGarvey at bolands.ie. Now, Brian, if you had any colleagues that weren't able to attend this evening, Brian's very, very happy to do an appointment. He can take you through homework space, either yourself, your colleagues, or a group of you at once. There's no problem there at all. If you do want to order at that special webinar price before the end of October, to be one of the first 50 schools to do that, then Brian is your man to do that. Or indeed, do contact any of your local Folands reps if you know them well as well. Okay. So now we're going to move into our question and answers. We've had a good few questions through, and I'm going to invite Kira and Connor back in to join us for those. Here's Connor.
Here's Connor.
Fantastic. So, yeah, as I say, we've had a good few questions through, really, really interesting questions showing that people are genuinely interested in what's going on here. So this is really, really good. The first question I have here, this is probably a Kira question, is what devices can you use homework space
on? Okay, so homework space is designed to be used on Folands Hive, which is a website. So so basically you just need a web browser to access it. So typically we would recommend like a larger screen just to make sure that you're displaying everything at its optimum. So a laptop, or if you're using tablets, a lot of students have the tablets for in-class use. So an Android tablet or an iOS device. If we have also had people in the past ask about phones, mobile phones, if they could be used on mobile phones. So students can complete the homework, right? So they can go in and do their homework activity. There are some more kind of, you know, in terms of like if they were using it for revision to go back in, they wouldn't necessarily have the best experience if they weren't using it on a bigger device. But in terms of completing the homework, all of the activities will resize for a smaller screen. So it should be fine.
Okay, great stuff. Actually, there's another question around devices here, which is linked with that, and that is: does the drag and drop style do the drag and drop style questions work well on a touchscreen device?
Okay, yes. So, so for example, if you were trying to do that matching activity that I was doing, where the options, you basically, it isn't drag and drop anymore. So if you were trying to do that on a mobile device, it will just basically let you touch into the area, and then it will give you the list of the options and you tap it again. So so they actually have been designed for that in mind. So the functionality might slightly change, but yeah, it's basically to optimize the experience on different devices.
Oh, that's great to know. Yeah, that's really, really good to know. Okay, so here is a question. This was mentioned earlier, Connor, but I think it's just something that's worth highlighting again. So this is a question that came in. Do you need to be using a Folands book to use homework space?
No, you don't. It's pretty, the term we were using when we were developing this, I think it was mentioned in one of the other webinars, is it's textbook agnostic, which sounds horrible, but basically means that we've designed it to remain independent of any textbook. So it follows a certain scope and sequence that's probably common to a lot of textbooks, but you're not going to be hamstrung in having homework space maths and using a non-Folands product.
Very good.
A non-Folands textbook, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, lovely. And actually, this is another one for you, Connor, is are there any plans for senior cycle for homework space?
It's kind of the next port of call for us, senior cycle. The question is whether we would develop homework space for whether what we do for senior cycle would be homework space or would be something different, because I suppose we need to be mindful of requirements around examinations, for example, like that. So it's definitely in the picture, and it's in the pipeline, but whether it comes through as homework space or something different would remain to be seen.
Yeah, yeah. Now here's a really interesting question, because it's actually come up a little bit with teachers that my guys have been talking to as well, is do I have to start with first year, or could I just go straight in at second year or third year with this?
I don't think you would necessarily. It's kind of adaptable in that way, and you can kind of see, and you can gauge from the table of contents that we would looked at, where exactly would you be at second year, where would you be starting off with your class at third year or first year for that matter. And you can, based on that, quite easily map out where to start and where to progress.
Yeah. So in other words, a teacher can literally decide today, actually, I'm going to use that with my third years, or I'm going to use that with my second years. And one of the things that's been really interesting is actually that the people that have bought it recently, they might have used it for third years because, they want to delve deeper into the sort of the previous stuff that the kids might have missed because of COVID, or use it as revision perhaps. And we've actually had a couple of schools this year already for TY, which has been really interesting. For that exact reason, where they felt that kids have missed vital parts of the junior cycle section, and they're kind of going, okay, well, we really want to get them going again and make sure that they cover everything that's missing. So that's been interesting too. Yeah.
Like it wasn't specifically designed for TY, but I guess that with the catch up that teachers might be looking to do.
Yeah.
At that stage, given obviously what's happened over the last 18 months or so. It's a good option possibly for schools to homework space to catch up in those subject areas.
Yeah, you could even see for just, if we were a third year group just starting this now, you've got obviously all of the content in the entire syllabus, right? Even if you're only, working through or actually teaching the third year content at the moment, it would be handy for just, for assigning other activities for revision purposes as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Content that's already.
So in other words, they can really start at any point they want, which is great. Now let's have a look more at these questions. Okay, so there's a question here. I think it's phrased how do students log on to home workspace, but it might be more about the setup perhaps. I think because you showed logging in, so I think it's probably more about the setup of students and how that would all happen.
Yeah, okay, so for students, basically, we just recommend that you use whatever if the school issues students with an email address, that you would use that one. Otherwise, if they're already like if they've used some of our books, you can use that email address either. But essentially, we have somebody internally who's actually doing that. So you just fill out a form at the moment and give that to us, and we will get you set up. So it basically means what students do you need in the system, and what classes do they need to be in, and then ultimately we are working on kind of making a way for teachers to be able to handle all that themselves. But for now, it's just a form you fill in and you give it back to us.
Great stuff. Fantastic. I think we got an idea, a sense of this, and actually the person asked it probably before we really got a sense, but just on average, how long is each piece of homework?
It's probably difficult. It depends maybe on the student, but I think you're able to obviously track how long students take on one, so you could probably get a good feel for how long it would take your student specifically. I guess one student who's really up to speed on a particular topic could fly through it because of the interactive nature. They're not having to write stuff down, they're just selecting options and through, whereas others may need to stop and revise and make sure that they answer the questions correctly. And then there might be other questions, I guess, as you progress through. In the case of science, maybe if it's more physics or I guess aspects of chemistry where there may be a calculation element to it, that would probably take a little bit longer. And similarly for maths, there may be some workings that we need to be done. I mean, at a guess, I would say maybe 10 to 15 minutes on the science and maybe a little bit more for maths, but it really depends. And I think the flexibility of homework spaces that you can track and tailor the homework assignment based on your students' ability and how long it takes, and then subsequently how much time you want them spending on their homework.
Yeah. Okay. There's a question here about the 50% discount. Is it just available on that basic plan, The answer is yes. So literally that 50% discount is literally just available on that basic plan. So that's a 50% discount on the 850. So that's 425 per person, per student, per subject for the year. So yeah, it is literally just on that basic plan. I teach, here's a question here. I teach science, biology and ag science. Will you have experiment videos?
Experiment videos for, okay, so were they looking for experiment videos for homework space science, is it?
I guess so, that's the question, yeah.
We don't have experiments embedded within the product itself, and it's not dependent on you, I don't think, having full knowledge of them. So so the answer to that question is that they're not there, they're not embedded, and yeah, it's not kind of part of the product design.
Yeah.
Like, so in general, we're not presenting content as part of.
Yeah.
You're still using whatever your core program is for presenting or teaching that content is separate.
Exactly.
Just about quizzing the students on their knowledge once they've acquired that. So if it's like a compulsory experiment that they're supposed to know about, there will be questions in there on that experiment, but they won't be given a video or a description of how that experiment should be done.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. There is another question here. It's around the use of textbooks again. So just to make it clear, so if students are to use the website, but they aren't using the actual phones textbooks, can they still get access to the program? So just to be clear, so this, if they have a license for this, then they can get access to the homework space questions within homework space. That doesn't give them access to the textbook. It gives them access to this. I think that's probably the clearest way to answer that question. I think I've got to the end of the questions that I have here. So yeah, I mean, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. It's been a really, really informative session. People have obviously been very, very engaged because we've had so many questions through. So we'd be very, very excited to hear from you. Do stay online. Straight afterwards, you'll be asked a question straight after the program. So just after the webinar. So do stay online. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much for joining us in your valuable evening time. And we really hope that you enjoyed it. We really hope that you're interested in homework space. And do contact us again if you'd like to. If you'd like to hear more about homework space. So take care and thanks very much. Good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.